Hi, and welcome to another episode of Innovations in Patient Care. I am your host, Jamie Davis, the Pod Medic, and I'm really excited to be back here at EMS Today 2014. And one of the reasons I get excited about coming to this particular conference is because I get to interview the EMS 10 awardees. And it really inspires me to go back to my system and make changes and try to make things a little bit better. And so I'm really excited to have Victor Convertino. Is that correct?
That's
Got
correct.
it right?
That's correct.
And Victor, you are one of the awardees this year, and tell us a little bit about your background and where you come from, and then we'll talk about your award.
Well, I was actually trained as an exercise physiologist, worked for NASA for about 8 years at the Kennedy Space Center, worked for astronauts to help them with low blood pressure, orthostatic hypotension, which they suffer after spaceflight. I then went 5 years to work with the Air Force and work with high-performance aircraft pilots who undergo high G, and their problem is hypotension.
Yeah.
And now I'm with the Army, and we have a method that we can cause hemorrhage in individuals, and the problem is hypotension. So I've been working on the issue and challenge of hypotension and low perfusion to tissue, which is shock.
Which is shock. And that's really what we talk about, shock in all of its many forms, but there are many things that can be done. And of course the Army is very interested in managing the shock patient before they reach that point where they're not going to be able to recover from the shock and that low perfusion level. And this is what the research you're doing is really what achieved this award.
Correct. So we're trying to give combat medics who are young 18 to 20-year-olds with very little training, not like our street civilian paramedics, tools that they will be able to go out and help keep our combat casualties alive until they get to the higher echelon of care. And that's a real challenge right now, and we're losing most of our casualties in the battlefield. Those that die will die before they get to the hospital. So if we can buy that time, much like civilian, once they get to the hospital, they have about a 96 to 98% chance of surviving. So our research has been focused on two technologies that we were recognized for in the award. One is a resuscitation that doesn't need fluids because our combat medics can't carry a lot of weight and fluids with them. And so that's using the resistance that's given during inspiration called the impedance threshold device. Which gives a resuscitation type effect. And the other one is a new monitoring device using a simple oximeter that measures the characteristics of waveforms and which integrates all of the mechanisms of blood pressure, heart rate. So all those things that don't have specificity on your standard monitors that now exist, we have been able to put them on a simple monitor that learns the individual and knows exactly where they are.
So you've created a monitor that can read specific things about a patient on its own, and then relay that information to the care provider, regardless of the height and level of their training.
Exactly. In fact, the screen has a simple, what we call a gas gauge, and the gas gauge is a bar that moves. If you have a bleeding patient, it moves from green to yellow to red and goes down, and so the individual knows where the patient is at all times.
And then they can make decisions about transportation. They can make decisions about other treatment modalities.
It is
based upon a very simple to read, quick to read monitor.
Absolutely, it becomes the simple triage tool.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I know I heard you accept the award last night, and you were very humble. And one of the things you said was that it was an honor to be accepting this award outside of your normal field of operation. That to be able to take something that you are doing for the military and hopefully have something to translate to the civilian field is exciting to you.
Absolutely. So I'm a trained physiologist is what it comes down to. And to be able to do something that might help our civilian paramedics as well as our combat medics and get out to where it's going to save lives, the gratification is incredible.
Well, I can just begin to think about the applications of something like what you're doing, because we have, ambulances responding with basic level providers while they're waiting for the response coming from another city, for instance, of advanced level providers. And to be able to put a simple and easy to read monitoring device on a patient post-motor vehicle accident or post-traumatic assault situation, and have those situations where they are we can quickly and easily tell, can I wait for that person to get here, or do I need to make another decision about where I'm going to go and how fast I get there?
Absolutely, and better than that, Jamie, is the units that we're working with record all the data.
Oh, wow.
So now you have a record, a continuous, in real-time record of the patient and their situation from the time of injury to the time they get to the physician in the ER.
So you can actually see what interventions are working.
Yes,
and make those decisions about, well, this is going to make them better. The ER physician can even see those different interventions and say, all right, this is where they did X, and this is where they did Y, and we need to do more of that.
Exactly, and so the combination is perfect. We can give the inspiratory resistance during a situation where the individual may be bleeding. We can see whether we have stopped the bleeding, and by breathing on it, we can actually see the bar return back to the yellow or red. Or green.
And see real-time effect of your intervention right there.
Absolutely.
And then know if it's working.
Absolutely.
Well, Victor, I want to thank you and congratulate you again for this award. One last question. Why is it important? You're coming out from another industry completely. You have your own recognitions that happen in exercise physiology and the things that you do. Why is it important for us in EMS to be recognizing these types of innovations?
I think because it gives us the greatest visibility that we need, so that the people in your profession see what is coming down the line, and they can understand the background, the science that went behind it. And the other visibility, of course, is to support from Congress. We have our folks at our Army headquarters going and testifying to Congress as to how important this is, and that helps funding for your field as well as our field.
And we get so much of the data and the techniques and the things that we learn to do in the field in the civilian area. We get so much of that information coming to us from the battlefields and from the lessons learned, hard learned by the military.
That's correct.
Yeah, great. Well, Victor, thank you very much for coming on Innovations in Patient Care and talking with me about this, your award, and thank you for being an innovator. Thank you for doing something so exciting.
It's my pleasure and my honor.
Oh, great. And I want to thank all of you for coming on. Remember, you can find more over at Innovations in Patient Care's site over at mediccast.com/innovations. And we'll have more for you from the EMS 10 awardees coming up soon, so stay tuned to this channel. And as always, remember to keep yourself safe and get home to your families at the end of the day. I'm Jamie Davis, the Pod Medic, signing off here at Innovations in Patient Care.